mindset. We're going to talk about what it is, and most importantly, what it's not. So we're going to focus on 5 things about how Agile testing is different to traditional testing, and mostly about what you need to be thinking about rather than what you're doing.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is teach you something called the failure valve. I'm glad Mitch mentioned failure earlier. It's very important in Agile to be able to fail and admit your failures. So I'm going to bow now and admit my failure. When I bow, please all clap for me, so it makes me feel better. We weren't quite prepared for this kind of a setup. I'm not sure what setup we were prepared for. But, so Karen's got all the notes, and just scribbled down some notes for me. So apologies, I have to read off my notes.
Or if I remind her what she's missing on the notes.
Sorry. Yeah, so I'm Sam Laing, and I started off my career as a developer. C#, Java, Delphi, VB for my sons. And then I was quite organized, so I became a team lead. And then I was very organized and very good at getting other people organized, so I became project manager. And then I became a development manager, and I hated it. I hated everything about it. The project's always late, it was really stressful. Overtime was, it wasn't even overtime, it was just how life was. And I discovered this thing called Scrum. I started reading about it, investigating it, and decided that's what I want to do with my life. It sounds like a better way. And I actually got hired by Karen to be a Scrum Master, the company she worked for. And a few years later, we started growing Agile.
Yeah. So I had also started my career actually as a tester, and similar, went through a whole bunch of jobs, ended up being employed at a company that was doing extreme programming without knowing what it was about, and had a really good time for 2.5 years, and then kind of left when the rand didn't look so good anymore, and they were based in London, so they kind of pulled out. And then I went back into traditional stuff and did normal projects from hell, and they all failed miserably. And I started a company that maybe I shouldn't mention the name of. I mean, they don't like me very much anymore. And they said, we've got a new dev manager, and she said, we want to do Scrum. And I went home for the weekend, and I read Henrik Knieberg's Scrum and XP from the Trenchant. And I went, hey, this is that XP thing I did a few years ago. Cool. I can roll it out to 100 people, no problem. That company doesn't like me anymore. They don't really do Scrum either. I learned a lot. It was a great company to learn in, and that's where I met Sam, so that was my good experience. But since then, we've kind of moved on to other companies, and what we do now is help people try and avoid some of the horrible mistakes we've made in the past.
Our Twitter address is up there, it's @GrowingAgile, but I've realized that we're in the internet black hole. So, tweet later.
Okay, so first of all, because you all had those big, apparently stoky muffins at lunchtime, I'm going to ask you to stand up, introduce yourself to the person standing next to you if you haven't yet, and then take a couple of minutes and talk about what testing means to you. Cool, we really do mean stand up. Get 10% more.
obviously, although I did hear lots of chatter. I'm going to guess that some of you were speaking about finding bugs. Hands up if you spoke about finding bugs. Yeah. Some of you spoke about checking if stuff works. Yeah. Some of you talk about breaking. Let's break it, see what happens. Yeah. How about the testers are responsible for quality? Anyone? Couple? Excellent. And how about testing is that thing that happens after bed? Anyone?
Yeah?
Excellent. Perfect. So today we're going to alarm you and let you know that Agile testing is none of these. At all. So now I'm going to teach you what Agile testing is.
Okay, so no particular order. First, let's look at testing as a phase. Yeah, you have to code something before you can test it, right? How do you test it if it doesn't exist yet? So lots of teams, they kind of do this combined Scrum Kanban thing. They've got a column for dev and then a column for test because it goes to test after dev, right? How many people have a board like this? Okay, that's not Agile testing. That's traditional. In Agile testing is just an activity that happens throughout the sprint. We kind of like put the test tasks on a different colored sticky so you can see roughly how much testing stuff you have versus dev stuff, but also so that you can move the testing ones first. You can do every test task before development if you're doing it right. That takes a bit of a mind shift, but think about this. Instead of going, okay developer, why don't you go code it, and I'm going to go sit over here and write some test cases. Why don't we sit together and figure out what the test cases are going to be before you write any code? Okay, so that's how you can do test tasks. Even if you're not automating it yet, you can still do the test cases before the developer writes a single line of code. We'll get to why that's an important thing. So if you really do want another column on your board, there's one we recommend. It's called Show Me. And this isn't a column that applies to the product. It's first every single task. So how many of you have one sticky at the moment that says code review? One per story, you do the code review task, it happens right at the end. Come on, I know some of you have it. How many of you does that task never happen? Ever? Yeah, the story's done anyway. Do we really need to code review? Okay, this will solve your problems. What the Show Me column says is after every task, the person who finished that task puts it into the Show Me column and finds somebody else on the team to quickly show it to. Here's the test cases I just wrote. What do you think? Oh, those are great. Did you think about negative cases? Oh, no, I didn't. Let me add that quick. Okay, now it's done. Every single piece of code that you write that's a task. I just wrote this code. Let me take you through it. Cool. That's great. Now it's done. Oh, wait, there was a bug. Fix it. Now it's done. This is important because it means that the whole team are working together. Instead of one person doing something and nobody else in the team knowing about it, everybody knows what's going on all the time. Most of the team have seen all the code by the time it gets to the end of the story. You don't need a big code review task anymore. And if these tasks are small, that review or that show me is happening a couple of times a day and it takes 5 minutes. You've all seen that graph that says the cost of fixing bugs gets more expensive the later it is. This is a way to fix bugs within 20 minutes of them being introduced. The cost of fixing them at that point is really, really low. So scrap your test column and make it a show me column. Okay, finding bugs. So how many of you have a metric on the test team or for the development team as a whole of how many bugs are found? How many people have testers and part of their performance evaluation is how many bugs they found? How many products out there your manager comes back to you and says there are X amount of bugs in our product and it's used as a stick to beat you up? Okay? Anyone?